Good evening. Campaigning for a new leader of the SNP has begun. Central Scotland MSP Alec Neil is the only nationalist figure so far to confirm he will run in the contest to succeed Alex Salmond. The suspended party treasurer Ian Blackford, who lost his job after falling out with Mr Salmond, has stepped in to give his backing to Mr Neil. Deputy leader John Swinney is expected to put his name forward, and the contest is predicted to come down to a straight fight between the two.
We in Scotland have a new Lord Haw-Haw. His name is George Robertson.
4 years ago, Alec Neil provoked a storm of protest when he compared the shadow Scottish Secretary to a Nazi collaborator. Now he wants to be the SNP's man for the future, but he'll also have to shake off his past as the architect of the ill-fated Free by 93 campaign. He's the only member of the SNP to have officially entered the race to be the next leader. He left the Labour Party in the 80s and wants the SNP to reassert independence at the top of the agenda.
As Europe changes, as the economy changes, we've got to drive forward to independence as soon as possible, in my view. If you take, for example, today Gordon Brown's announcing the comprehensive spending review. Scotland's going to get about £4 billion over 3 years. That sounds like a lot of money, but it's peanuts compared to what we would get if we were an independent country.
The suspended SNP treasurer Ian Blackford has now stepped into the campaign and given his backing to Mr Neil.
Obviously it's early days yet in terms of the runners and riders. There's been much speculation as to who it may be, but I'm certainly happy to back the candidature of Alec Neil, given that I believe he represents those principles. He's a man I think you can unite the party, and one that will have a collegiate style that will pull this party together.
Alec Neil may be the only nomination to date, but he's far from the front runner.
Very early days, but we've got John Swinney as a 1-4 favourite, and clearly we would expect him to be the successful candidate. The fact that Mr Neil has put his hat in the ring already, we've put him as 3-1 second favourite. And for any customers out there that fancy a real outsider, we've also got Sean Connery at 100-1.
John Swinney was at Alex Salmond's side 10 years ago when he was elected as leader and could be set to take over. He's respected by the grassroots and has won praise for his role as chair of the Enterprise and Lifelong Learning Committee. The party's transport spokesman Kenny McCaskill is also tipped to enter the race. If not as leader, then perhaps as Mr Swinney's running mate. Other names in the frame to lead the party include Rosanna Cunningham and Mike Russell. Nominations close in 3 weeks' time and the new leader will be elected at the party's national conference in September. Elizabeth Quigley, reporting Scotland.
The legal ownership of the famous Cuillin Mountains on Skye, now on the market for £10 million, will not be challenged. After a detailed investigation, the Crown Estates Commission said they were confident that clan chief John MacLeod of MacLeod would win any action to prove his ownership. Conservation groups say the decision highlights the need for an urgent change to existing Scottish laws.
Tonight's decision means the Black Cuillins of Skye belong to John MacLeod of MacLeod, the clan chief who's put them up for sale for £10 million, a fundraiser for repairs to Dunvegan Castle. There was a public outcry when the island's internationally famous landmark was put on the open market. Questions were raised about whether the Crown was the real owner. But the legal advice that there was no evidence to support a challenge raises significant issues for the ongoing land reform programme.
The ease with which people can assert title under Scots law, that if you've been there for over 20 years and if nobody has put in a counterclaim in the meantime, then bingo, it's yours and you can put it in the market for £10 million. I don't think many people would regard that as satisfactory.
Concerns about the 22,000-acre sale have been raised by conservation groups and local people. But a joint bid for public ownership was ruled out because of the £10 million price tag. Conservation groups say tonight they're still in limbo and the market will decide the mountain's future.
We would certainly look again if the price was nearer to what we believe is the commercial value of something between £2 and £2.5 million for the Cuillin. But it would be foolhardy of us, and it would probably have repercussions for the whole heritage community all the way down the line. Even if we did have the money to put that sort of price tag on the Cuillin, simply because it would price heritage bodies like the Trust out of any future land purchases in Scotland.
Tonight, John MacLeod said he was glad the world now knew the Black Cuillins were part of the heritage of MacLeod. He said the hills would remain accessible to all, but Dunvegan Castle needed fundamental maintenance. The selling agents say they'll now be in touch with a number of overseas buyers who've expressed interest in buying the Cuillins. Isabel Fraser, reporting Scotland.
And coming up later on tonight's programme, the mining jobs which could be at risk because of a study into rare birds. Plus, 400 tonnes of sand and not a bucket and spade in sight. Glasgow hosts the first International Sand Sculpture Festival.